حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Inshallah, I'll be reciting from Surah Saba, which is Surah number 34, verse 10 onwards. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولقد آتينا داود منا فضلا يا جبال أوبي معه والطير وألنا له الحديد أن اعمل سابغات وقدر في السرد واعملوا صالحا إني بما تعملون بصير. ولسليمان الريح غدوها شهر ورواحها شهر وأسلنا له عين القطر ومن الجن من يعمل بين يديه بإذن ربه ومن يزغ منهم عن أمرنا نذقه من عذاب السعير. يعملون له ما يشاء من محاريب وتماثيل وجفان كالجواب وقدور الراسيات اعملوا آل داود شكرا وقليل من عبادي الشكور. فلما قضينا عليه الموت ما دلهم على موته إلا دابة الأرض تأكل من سأته فلما خر تبينت الجن
أن لو كانوا يعلمون الغيب ما لبثوا في العذاب المهين. لقد كان لسبإ في مسكنهم آية لقد كان لسبإ في مسكنهم آية جنتان عن يمين وشمال كلوا من رزق ربكم واشكروا له بلدة طيبة ورب غفور. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, and thank you for attending this year's Muharram lecture series entitled Islam and God Centricity, the final chapter. This year's lectures have been sponsored on behalf of the marhumin whose names appear on the screen just outside the chapel. Can I please request you to recite a Surah Fatiha for these and all our marhumin? Al-Fatiha. Just a quick health and safety announcement. In case of any emergency, the fire exits are located at the back of the chapel, the main entrance, and the double doors by the dining room. Please can I also request everyone to keep their face masks on for the duration of the program and also maintain social distancing as much as possible. There will be a Q&A session with Shaykh Arif tonight after the lecture, after Matam. If you have any questions, you can send them to www.shaykharif.com/live. Before we start, can I please request you all to move forward so we can leave some space at the back for people coming later on. And can we finally welcome Shaykh Arif with a salawat.
Come forward so the people who come afterwards can can comfortably move back. Sorry about this. Sorry. رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين شفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين وأصحابه المنتجبين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى قيام يوم الدين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد، السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمسابنا بأبي عبد الله الحسين عليه الصلاة والسلام. Continuing with our lectures on the specific qualities of the blessed prophets and the imams, we stated yesterday that the state of sin, error and mistake, whilst being human, nobody is immune from it. Now, obviously, when we talk about the renowned prophets and the imams, they do not commit sins in the way we understand sin, major or minor sins, the categories, or disobedience of God. Their piety is so refined that they are God conscious, and that focus upon God and reverence of God would not even allow them in their developed personalities and refined characters to think of disobeying God or displeasing God even in the least. So when they feel a sense of sin, it is to do with unworthiness that they feel within their souls in front of God, or the lack that they feel, or they feel inadequate in giving back to God the thanks that is owed to God. And we will discuss this further in the very, very last lecture, how they felt the state of sinfulness. But we have to feel a state of sinfulness as an impetus to grow towards God. For as soon as conceit comes, complacency comes, our human journey comes to a halt and we stop. These wonderful creatures knew the endless nature of God, the ocean of beauty, and they know and they knew that whatever they received from the endless beauty of God, in spite of whatever they received, it was but a drop from an ocean that is unending. And hence, it is essential for them to feel that sense of sinfulness within them and that sense of inadequacy that drives them forward in their attainment of the fullness until they remain no more and God prevails. لِمَنِ الْمُلْكَ الْيَوْمِ لِلَّهِ وَاحِدَ الْقَهَارِ. Whose is the kingdom on this day, they ask in their souls. When their souls are destroyed and the call comes, لِلَّهِ وَاحِدَ الْقَهَارِ. It is for Allah, the one, the overpowering. So from here we see that the statement of our Sufi masters that Hasanat al-Abrar, Sayyiat al-Muqarrabin, that the righteous deeds of the good doers are sins of the proximate souls. Even to think that I am doing this in the way of Allah constitutes a sin in the soul of the Prophet Muhammad and his family and his blessed brothers, the prophets who went before him. Even to think that I am doing a good deed in the way of God constitutes a grave transgression against the holiness of God. This is their state, and we need to talk about it a bit more. But if there is one area of infallibility that we can arrive at, then that is infallibility in terms of deliverance of the message of God. But The subsequent interpretations are all fallible, and it can't be otherwise, and we will explain that at some point. Even the laws of the Quran, in their delivery, they are infallible. Outside their context, they may not be infallible. So for example, and I just want to finish on this note as we move forward in today's talk. The law of slavery was infallible, delivered infallibly, applied infallibly in its own context. Beyond its own context, it's infallible in terms of communication of God, in terms of application, because the human community has moved on. Due to the evolutionary motion, it becomes fallible in its application, if not understood accurately, and hence we need that super mind of an imam, and in his absence the collective mind to come together and work through these conundrums. And of course, the Prophet swallowed up by a fish. What was his name? Nabi Yunus. Have we got it right today? Yeah, it was Nabi Yunus. So I said Nabi Shuaib, and today I was going to say Nabi Ayub. Please do correct me, yes? It's sometimes the mind is functioning on some other idea and some word gets stuck on the tongue and you repeat the word again and again. If the boys can come on this side as well now, forward, so that others can come afterwards. Just come on this side, on the forward, in the front. Yes, the man can come here. Yeah. It's okay, that's the line of the Araf. The right hand side ones are the one in going to paradise, don't worry. My right, yeah? Your left. So having now qualified that it was Hazrat Yunus and not any other prophet, we can move forward. So now we come to the issue of the knowledge base of the prophets and the prophet and his family. Now they are all interconnected themes. If you talk about infallibility, then you have to have absolute state of knowledge. They are all interconnected. But when you examine the life of the prophet, and you examine the Quranic verses and examine the life of the progeny of the prophet, you find, well, no, it doesn't stack up, it doesn't add up. Something is wrong somewhere, and it needs to be explained. Reconciliation needs to be made. But it seems that something has happened to Islam that has been happening to every other religion prior to Islam. If you look at Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, every religion, there has been this trend of creating superhuman superheroes. All the previous scriptures talk about these type of superhumans and superheroes that had God's qualities with them. The Quran saw that this is something that is distracting. These are specific attributes of God. Absolute infallibility is the attribute of God. Absolute knowledge is the attribute of God, and nobody else shares with God. The problem with giving these sort of qualities to other than God is that we move away from God's centricity and we get distracted to other than God. Now that inevitably entails forfeiting our purpose from life, because purpose in life is to be directed accurately to our center, and our center is God. Which God? Not the God that we are going to find upon the throne. No, the God as the Wahid al-Qahhar, the one who is overwhelming, the one who destroys every other limit. And that God is not in a place that is to be found, but awaits reception deep within us. Until and unless we are directed to that one absolute reality, this here does not relent and does not give in. Once this soul relents and gives in to God, it breaks, and then it embraces that overwhelming beauty. And that is the fulfillment of the human purpose. At an intellectual level, we become liberated and there's nothing barring us, because we are empowered by knowing that we are the lights of God. La ilaha, there is no God but Allah, who is the absolute. So go forward. There are no momentous waves that will hold you back. There is no space that will restrain you upon earth. Take flight, conquer space, delve into the oceans, see what is in there. Cure the sick, feed the hungry, better your situation, rectify the ecology of the earth. You have it all. That is the message of the Quran. You have it all. Don't be distracted. Turn to one God and let Him be the point of your liberation. Outer liberation by becoming God-like, by conquering the universe, an inner liberation by conquering your ego and letting it fade away in God and allowing God to display His beauty through you. That's the central message of the Quran. And the Quran does not want us to be distracted from that. And hence the Quran is adamant in denying such potencies, such qualities to other than God. But human history has got something in there. Something has gone on when we look at the previous scriptures and we look at our own tendencies in attributing God's qualities to other than God. So we attribute isma, entirety of knowledge, creative ability, the ability to construct sharia, so on and so forth, the subjects that we are discussing at present. So this has become a huge, huge problem. From here we get spin-off theologies that the Prophet and the Imams see us, they hear us, our deeds are being placed in front of them, and then we have the ziyarat that they see all of our deeds and we are accountable to them. Before you know it, God centricity is lost in the name of the people who lived a very God centric life. And that's a huge calamity. And with the departure of God's centricity, virtues begin to depart, morality begins to depart, we become exclusivist and we become people who condemn others and intolerant. How strange is this? And I'm going to revisit this in a couple of days' time, that the Imams, whose role model Muhammad Rasulullah came to forgive one and all, teach us to become intolerant and to curse one and all. You see, something has gone terribly wrong. We need to re-examine. So now, what about ilmul ghayb and everything that goes with ilmul ghayb? We have to admit that we have to have role models who have to have impeccable knowledge. On the one hand, this is something that we do need. How can we follow a prophet who does not have impeccable knowledge? He must know the hidden. He must know the hereafter. He must know the nature of God. He needs to give us prophecies. He needs to talk about the future. If we don't have somebody with that type of knowledge base, we will not easily concede to their authority. We will say, you are deficient. If you are from God, then surely you need to have that level of knowledge. Now, when we look at the Prophet and his family, we find that level of immaculateness and impeccable knowledge. The way they describe God and the way they describe the hereafter, the events of death, post-death life, the way they describe the nature of the cosmos, the way they describe the future events, we say, yes, these are the true people and my heart can find rest with them and I can listen to them and rely upon them. Now look at the phenomenal way in which Imam Sadiq talks about the cosmos. If you look at Imam Sadiq and the way he describes the nature of the cosmos and you compare it with today's scientific discoveries, we will say, how did a man 1,200 years ago get it right? When the predominant cosmology was that of Aristotle, in which Aristotle assumed the earth to be the center and everything else just to be stagnant there, weightlessly hanging about. How did Imam Sadiq say the sun is in a state of motion, the galaxies are being expanded? How did he say all these things? Where did he learn it from? How did he say that the whole of the universe has begun from a particle and it will revert into a particle? How can a man 1,200 years ago say these things? Imam Ali, Salamullah alayhi, the way he talks about the creation of the earth and its horizons and its heavens, you think, how did he get it so accurate? It's baffling the mind. Then he talks about an angel whose feet, in the same khutbah, is embedded deep inside the earth and whose head stretches out into the heavens. Of course, today we know how to interpret that. That might be the magnetic field that he's talking about, that stretches from the center of the earth and goes all the way up to the heavens. Of course, for the lack of expression, he used the word angels, and the Prophet has used the word angel to depict natural forces. But we ask ourselves, how did they know about these things? How did they understand them? The distance between the earth and the moon, in terms of the Arab mindset and how to explain this. Or when Ali ibn Abi Talib speaks about Allah, مَعَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ لَا بِمُلَاسَكَ دُونَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ لَا بِمُزَايَلَةٍ. He is with everything, but he does not touch anything. He is other than everything, and there is no separation between him and anything. Where did he get such impeccable knowledge from? That is a description of unity of God that we are embarking upon nowadays when we are talking about in a panpsychic world, that the whole of the universe is a thinking being. It is itself. Everything is itself. The overwhelming being is with everything and other than everything. How did he explain this? Then we think about their teachings on virtues, on moralities. Imam Ali talked about future events, that music will emanate from pockets, and then of course we know nowadays the mobile phones and whatever. They talked about people seeing each other in the palms of their hands. The futuristic prophecies, they were all accurate. So we have to admit from here that there are people who are a brand in themselves. They are exquisite people. Some form of impeccability does exist with them. Imam Sadiq was asked, how do you know these things? He said, well, Ruh al-Quds inspires us, as the Ruh al-Quds inspired the prophets. But the phenomenal thing is that was this a miraculous occurrence? We have to understand that miracles are natural things. For them to occur, nature has to accommodate them. If nature can accommodate them, then these miracles are natural. We just don't understand their supernatural workings. But we will potentially get there at some point. But Imam Sadiq said something very odd. He said the Ruh al-Quds does not only accompany us, it accompanies every believer when they are in the state of tranquility. They are all inspired. And that's why you find these people like Einstein and Tesla and others who are just inspired. It's amazing their minds, the way their minds work. So Ruh al-Quds doesn't necessarily have to come to a Muslim, it can come to anybody in that state of tranquility and state of beauty. So we say, well, fine. If they were inspired and if they are a brand in themselves, then how can they be role models for us to emulate and follow? And then again, we have all these anomalies and inconsistencies. Imam Rada, if he knew all those things, then he knew that the date that he is eating is poisonous. Why would he eat it? Then we have elaborate explanations. Well, they had to behave like ordinary man, so they found a poisonous substance and they had to eat it. So I will say, well, hold on now. I am an extraordinarily gifted man. Okay? I know that the date that somebody is putting in front of me is filled with poison. If I were to eat this, will God punish me for committing suicide? The answer is yes, you should not eat it. Then in that case, if Imam Rada is my role model, I should eat that date as well. Shouldn't I? There is whole scale inconsistency here. We have to admit that we have to resolve this particular issue. There is inconsistency here. So we will say, as we go into this theme, that they can never have the knowledge of the worldly affairs. Because if they had knowledge of worldly affairs, then two things come out. That their lives are not a test for them. And two, they are not role models for us to emulate. Can you see this? Now I'm going to make a bit of a jump and come to Imam Hussein quickly. Did Imam Hussein know that he was going to be killed in Karbala? The answer is, we all have dreams and premonitions, don't we? We all know when something bad is going to happen. Many of us know that. So, Imam Hussein being Imam Hussein, why would he not have had a dream or a premonition or a hunch that he was going to be killed? Why couldn't he have had it? So then the answer is, well, why did he go there? The answer is simple actually. We don't have to construct convoluted philosophies. The answer is simple. At most, he knew it could happen. He did not have the decisive answer. And I'm going to explain that in just a little while. Like Imam Ali, he said to Imam Hassan, I've had a dream. If this dream is true, I'll be assassinated. But I don't know. The final answer is with God. Allah says, and Imam Ali quoted this verse, وَلَا تَدْرِي نَفْسٌ فِي أَيِّ أَرْضٍ تَمُوتُ, and no soul knows in which land it will be killed. And once Imam Ali was somewhere alone, somebody came and he said, look, I want to guard you against hidden attackers. He said, can you save me if my death is decreed on this night? He said, no. He said, then go away. You can't save me. I don't know, you don't know. If it is not tonight, you're wasting your time. And if it is tonight, you're wasting your time because you can't save me anyway. These have got some secret answers in there that we need to unravel. So, they cannot have knowledge of matters connected with human life. They cannot have knowledge of worldly matters in their entirety, and I'll explain why in their entirety. They cannot have knowledge of the intentions of the people in their entirety. And they cannot have the knowledge of the destiny of God. Because these are the things, if they had knowledges of these things, they would no longer be people who are being tested. Even the Prophet does not know the destiny of any soul who is going to die and where it's going to go, heaven or hell. Why? Because the Quran says in Al-Imran, and God has yet to know. God has yet to know who is a believer and who is otherwise. If God is saying that about himself, God has yet to know. And of course, we've explained this in last year's lectures, that God here as the God of humanity, not God as God, at different levels of his reflections. So even the Blessed Prophet does not know. Now look at the Quran. O Muhammad, they come to you and they make God a witness for what is in their hearts, and you are impressed by them. But these are the worst of God's enemies. What does that say? That the Blessed Prophet in his innocence assumed everybody to be what they are saying. So he judged people at face value. He did not know what was going on in their hearts and their souls. And two, the Prophet never knew of destiny. Think about this. And I'm going to revisit this in a little while. O Muhammad, we may kill you, we may show you what is going to be done to them. We are undecided as yet. Yeah, we are undecided. We don't know what we will do. You just act in accordance with what you feel is your duty. And that is why he was an exemplary. Now, why do we say that knowledge in its entirety? Because if they knew knowledge in its entirety, then there would be no distinction between them and between God. Now, what is ilmul ghayb? What is concealed knowledge? Let us look at this. One, any knowledge that is beyond sense perception. So I don't know what's going on in the other hole. That's also ghayb for me. It can also include the knowledge of the hereafter. It can also include the knowledge of different heavens and different multidimensional realms of existence. However, is this knowledge concealed? No. A lot of it is revealed. The Prophet went on Mi'raj and he saw the hereafter, didn't he? So what is ghayb for me is shuhud for him. He physically went and saw it, right? So it's no longer ghayb for him. It's relativistic. Imam Ali talks about creatures that are living in stars and communicate by towers of light. It is ghayb for me and you. It is not ghayb for Imam Ali. He is seeing it. What about Khidr and Musa? Musa cannot see more than what we can see. Khidr is able to see intentions and into future events. So when Khidr killed that young boy, Musa said, well, why did you do that? Khidr said, because he was going to give his parents a very hard life, because he was going to be disobedient. We thought if we kill him, then his Lord will, or our Lord will replace him with a better, will replace the children, with the parents with better offsprings, with a better offspring, who would be more righteous. So Khidr could see something that was ilmul ghayb and Moses could not. So from here we are finding, wait a minute, ilmul ghayb is not something that you can lump together. There is a lot of relativity in ilmul ghayb. Some know it, some don't. Ilmul ghayb could be events of the future and of destiny. But what about the prophets giving us prophecies? They gave future events and they were all accurate. What about technology? We are forecasting the weather. I mean, even though we don't get it accurate very often nowadays, but we still forecast it, don't we? Now, what if somebody were to go back in time 200 years and say, it's going to rain, they would have done sajda to that person. They would say, my God, he's a God or something. Can you see that? But technology unveils for us future events by accurate assessments of working of nature. So we see here that future events can be disclosed through variety of means, through technology, through science, through palmistry, through astrology, so on and so forth, through dreams. So here again, the knowledge of the unseen is not exclusive for God. Intention of others. Well, many people can know the intention of others, and we know this. Many people are gifted who can understand the intention of others. So here again, there is no exclusivity to ilmul ghayb. But there is one part of ilmul ghayb that is exclusively for God. And that is what we need to discuss, and that is where nobody shares with God. And the Quran gives two types of verses. One is the exclusive knowledge, and one is the knowledge that He imparts. So we want to deal with that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that as far as the day of Qiyamah is concerned, nobody has the knowledge of the day of Qiyamah. And He is adamant about the day of Qiyamah, that nobody knows when it will be. Even the Prophet Muhammad does not know. He talks about another realm of knowledge. وَعِنْدَهُ مَفَاتِحُ الْغَيْبِ, and He has the keys to the unseen. لَا يَعْلَمُهَا إِلَّا هُ, nobody knows them save He Himself. So it appears that what we understand by ghayb is one thing, and what Allah is talking about ghayb is something else altogether. These are things that are totally unavailable. Nobody has access to them save God. Not a prophet, not an imam, not an angel. Then, the meaning of the ambiguous verses. Nobody knows save God Himself. هو الذي أنزل عليك الكتاب منه آيات محكمات هن أم الكتاب. He is the one who has revealed the book to you. In them are verses that are stable. هن أم الكتاب, they are the mother of the book. وأخرى متشابهات, and then there are other verses that are ambiguous. فَمَا الَّذِينَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ زَيْغ, as for the people who have corruption in their souls, فَيَتَّبِعُونَ مَا تَشَابَهَ مِنْهُ, they will follow the ambiguous verses. ابتغاء الفتنة وابتغاء تأويلا, seeking discord and seeking its interpretation. And then Allah replies, وَمَا يَعْلَمْ تَأْوِيلُهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ, and no one knows the interpretation of these verses except Allah. So now you can imagine the Prophet Muhammad is delivering the Quran, and he is delivering something that he himself cannot grasp. God is making this point, that the Prophet Muhammad is a messenger, is a means and a vehicle to transfer my words. But in those words, there is certain secret that even he does not know what they mean. So he can disclose to you a level of the hidden, but there is a hidden beyond the hidden that not even he knows. So what it seems to bring out here is that there are layers and layers and layers of meaning. And then there are layers of meaning that is unavailable to the Blessed Prophet himself or even to an angel. That level of hiddenness nobody can know. It is exclusively for God. قُلْ لَا يَعْلَمْ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ الْغَيْبِ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Say, nobody in the heavens and the earth knows the unseen save Allah. So we said, oh Allah, but we have already stated in the previous examination that other than you knows the ghayb. How can you say that nobody knows the ghayb apart from you? It seems from here that we are conflating ghayb with ghayb. We are confusing concealed knowledge with concealed knowledge. There is concealed knowledge that can be accessed by minds if they exercise their minds. If they are fine-tuned and pious, Holy Spirit can come to them and inspire them, whether they know it's the Holy Spirit or whether they feel it's accidental. There can be technology that can disclose the ghayb. There is ghayb that can be accessed by humanity, and then there is ghayb that nobody can access. عِنْدَهُ مَفَاتِحُ الْغَيْبِ لَا يَعْلَمُهَا إِلَّا هُ. He has the keys of the unseen, nobody else knows save He. And this is why Hussein is pleading to Allah in his dua Arafah, "Oh Lord, I don't know your decree and destiny." Every time your lovers become accustomed to a particular destiny, you quickly change it and keep the hearts of your lovers yearning for you. Nobody knows how you are. And as one of the Imams says, "La ya'lam kayfahu illa hu." Nobody knows how he is save he himself. And that is the whole distinction. Nobody knows ghayb and people know ghayb. Can you see that? You see, this is the confusion. People know ghayb and the Quran is saying nobody knows ghayb. We are talking of two different levels of ghayb altogether. One is the ghayb that God is talking about that is exclusive to Him. Other is the ghayb that every mortal has access to, provided they are refined enough. And that is the ghayb that the prophets and the imams knew. So there is nothing to say that if a refined soul can be so refined that they will not be able to see what the prophets were seeing. Look, if it is exclusive to Prophet, then Musa would not have been revealed to. Wasn't she revealed to? وَإِذْ أَوْحَى رَبُّكَ إِلَىٰ Musa. And when your Lord revealed to the mother of Moses, she is a mere mortal, isn't she? She is getting communication from the hidden. Maryam salamullah alayha, she gets visitation from the Ruhul Quds. And she sees Ruhul Quds. She is not a Nabiya according to us. She is not a prophetess according to us. According to the other scriptures, she is a prophet. So there is a level of ghayb that can be accessed by human beings. And the most refined of these human beings are the prophets. They arrive at a pedestal where they get visitation from the blessed prophets, from the blessed angels and the Ruhul Quds. But you don't have to be a prophet, as in the case of Musa or in the case of Lady Mary. But that is all within the realm of what is knowable and unknown. So there is a lot that is knowable, but it is unknown, but it is knowable. Yet there is a realm that is unknown and cannot be known no matter who it is. Malakun Muqarrab or Nabiyun Mursal or Imamul Muttaqi. No matter what they are or who they are, that level no one can access. Now, that level may be accessed partially through the consent of God. These are the verses, and then we want to reconcile. In Ayatul Kursi, يَعْلَمُ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمَا خَلْفَهُمْ. He knows what is before them and what is behind them. وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنْ عِلْمِهِ. And no one can encompass anything of His knowledge إِلَّا بِمَا شَاءَ, except for what God wants. So He can decree for a portion of that knowledge to be imparted. Now, is this the knowledge that is through wahi, or is this another type of knowledge altogether? That question needs to be resolved. Alimul ghayb, the knower of the unseen. Now this could be the unseen that is either the entirety of the unseen or the unseen that is being referred to in the Quran as the absolute unseen. فَلَا يُظْهِرْ عَلَى غَيْبِهِ. And He will not allow anybody to view His unseen, أَحَدًا إِلَّا مَنْ ارْتَضَى مِنْ رَسُولٍ, except for whoever He wants amongst His messengers. So even here we find that no, God may impart partially certain glimpses of the unseen. Now how do we reconcile between these two sets of verses? When we say people can know the unseen, and God is saying they cannot know the unseen within the humanly realm, then we can reconcile by saying that yes, people can know the unseen, but they can't know the entirety of the unseen. For if they were to know the entirety of the unseen, especially the prophets and the imams, they would no longer be role models. Then we can say, well, concealed knowledge is knowledge at will. Neither the prophets nor the imams can know anything at will. Concealed knowledge is in relation to the final destiny in terms of salvation and damnation. Nobody can know that. Or concealed knowledge could mean the finality of knowledge. That what I know will transpire in the way that I know. Now why do I say that? Because Allah says, Yamhulla ma yasha wa yuthbit. Allah can wipe clean whatever He wants, and He can establish wa indahu ummul kitab, and He has mother of all books, so He can change destiny at will. Then we have the whole of this issue of bada, a sudden change in destiny. So Imam Sadiq said, we thought Ismail was going to be an imam after me, but God has taken him away, and there is a change in destiny. So here it seems that destiny is in the making, and nobody can grasp it, and God can change His mind at whatever point He wants, and nothing is stable. So even if Imam Hussein and Imam Ali knew that they were going to be assassinated, they could have never based their actions on that knowledge. Because God could change it immediately, and hence they are ordained to act in accordance with what anybody else should act in accordance with the availability of knowledge. Now we see that when it comes to the Quran and to the Blessed Prophet, the Quran is adamant to remove the whole notion of the unknown from the Prophet, so that the Prophet can be a pure role model for people to emulate and follow. Look at these verses. Nabi Nuh said to his people, La aqulu lakum indi khazainullah wa la a'lamul ghayb. I do not tell you that I have the treasures of God, and I do not tell you that I know the ghayb. Nabi Nuh said this originally. In one of the surahs, A'raf I believe, the Prophet is being told, Surah Al-An'am, the Prophet is being told to repeat those verses that Nabi Nuh said. But here the difference is, whereas Nabi Nuh said, La aqulu lakum, here the difference is, Qul la aqulu lakum. Say, I do not say to you that I have the treasures of God and I know the unseen. Why is there such emphasis? Why is there such emphasis on saying to the Prophet, tell them? Again, the verse is saying, وَلَوْ كُنْتُ أَعْلَمُ الْغَيْبِ لَاسْتَكْثَرْتُ مِنَ الْخَيْرِ. Had I known the unseen, I would have benefited a great deal, and no evil would have befallen me. Why is the Prophet being told to say these things out again and again? First thing is that I don't think that the Prophet is lying, because the Prophet could know the unseen, but for the threat that the people will be distracted and not follow the message and venerate the Prophet instead, the Prophet is being told, take away all shred of divinity from yourself. I don't think the Prophet is lying here. The Prophet was being told to say the truth as it is. And the testimony for that is what? We can see it in the Prophet's life. When Bibi Aisha went missing, he felt a lot of anxiety in his heart. When the people were leveling accusations, he felt anxiety. Had he known the unseen, he would have just said, she is at a distance, she is approaching now, this was the story. He had to live with that anxiety until the Quran came and exonerated Bibi Aisha. Can you see that? He did not know, I don't know the unseen. He was speaking the truth, he did not know the unseen. When at the battle of Uhud, he said to the archers, do not leave your positions. He did not know that they will not listen to him and abandon their position. They abandoned their position. He did not know if he would be killed in that battle. The Quran did not give him any knowledge. We might take you before that, O Muhammad, or we might just keep you alive to show you what we have promised to do with them. Can you see that? The Prophet Muhammad genuinely did not know. So when he was uttering about the hereafter, he knew that because he had seen it. When he was talking about the nature of God, he knew that because he felt it. But even there, he did not know the entirety of what he was communicating, as the Quran says, "La ya'lam ta'wiluha illallah." But as far as daily affairs are concerned, the Blessed Prophet did not know. It's quite clear from the Quran. His wives used to take advantage of the Prophet's innocence. And the Quran had to intervene. "Oh Muhammad, why do you make haram what Allah has made halal for you? In order to please your wives. Why do you cause yourself such stress?" So the Prophet did not know that his wives were making up stories. You can see that from the Quran. He did not know. As a role model, that knowledge was kept away from him. Intention of others and future events. The Prophet says, "I do not know what will be done to me or to you. I only follow what is being revealed to me. I don't even know my own destiny, let alone yours." And he was being genuine about it. He says, "I do not know about the higher realms when they were fighting and in a quarrel." Quran says to the Prophet, "You did not know the book, you did not know the faith before we revealed it unto you. We narrate to you the best of stories through this revelation, even though you were unaware of it all." So the Blessed Prophet did not know what was going to happen in the worldly life of his. So if the Blessed Prophet did not know, can you say that his children knew? Look, our theological yardstick is that the Blessed Prophet is the best, the creme de la creme, isn't it? If the Blessed Prophet is the creme de la creme, do you think as role models his family knew? You can't, right? Admit to that. But according to our few days ago's talk, Prophet may not have known, his family might have had a quality that he did not know. But even then, did they know the finality of knowledge? Could they have known the finality of knowledge? Could Imam Hussein have said, "I will be killed on the day of Ashura and God will not change his destiny"? Do you think Imam Hussein would have dared to say something like that? Look at the dua of Imam Hussein, in which he says on Karbala, "O Lord, if you have decided to withhold victory from me." What does that show? That Imam Hussein did not know how the destiny of God would unfold. Even till the morning of Ashura, Imam Hussein was telling them, "Don't go to battle with me." If he had already known that they're going to go to battle with him and they're going to kill him, and that was the final destiny, why do all of these things? Can you see that? None of them had that knowledge that we are talking about. Now, the 6th and the 10th Imam did not know their successors. We know this. In the case of the 6th and the 10th Imams, they did not know their successors. Both of them had sons that they thought were their successors, and their sons died. And then we have the creation of this notion of bada, a sudden change in destiny. That yes, we knew God's plan and suddenly God changed his mind. So as far as role models are concerned, these people were kept away from the knowledge of future events. Otherwise, they would not have been proper role models. Now with that goes the whole of this theology, that we can understand that Imams are looking at us, they are watching us, and they know what we are doing. The Imams, if they don't know who their successors are, by priority, they don't know what is going on in the world. With a theology like that, we are demeaning them, devaluing them. And in addition, what we are doing is, we are becoming distracted from God. What is the right of God is being given to other than God and the creatures of God. And that is a huge problem that has crept in our theology. Now I know this might not be easy, and I don't want to bang on about this, but when we go to the shrine, we say to the Imams, "You see my state, and you know what is in my heart, and I don't need to tell you." These are the sentiments that we have, don't we? Now this is all done very naively, and our Imams are beautiful creatures. But look at the slippery slope. We do it at the shrine, then we do it at the mosque, then we do it in ourselves. Now I know people that I've come across in my life. In my lives is very telling, isn't it? In my previous lives. In my life, who, when they are faced with difficulty, they actually go to the lake or the river or the sea and they do amal of the 12th Imam. And they call upon the 12th Imam, saying to him, I bear witness that you witness my position here. Look at our language, Ismaili and Ishnashri. Mawla will do the best. I used to think Mawla was Allah, but Mawla is, for them, Ismaili is either Imam Ali or the Aga Khan, and for the Ishnashris, Mawla is Imam Ali. Mawla ke hawale, in the care of Mawla. Or Imam Hussein is Mawla, sometimes Mawla ke hawale. Yes? It is with notions like these, in the care of Mawla, because Mawla knows what your situation is. Mawla Abbas knows, he will come to your assistance. Before we know it, a beautiful message of Quran that is so liberating has become Imam-centered. And after becoming Imam-centered, God disappears. After the disappearance of God, we are in that precarious position that, we are all about the Imams, and the haters of the Imams are our sworn enemies, and we swear at them and we curse at them. They were mere mortals, highly, highly gifted, but in their everyday life, they did not know what was going to transpire. And beyond their life, there is nothing there to say that they see us, that they hear us, or they know about us. There is nothing there. Even the blessed Prophet on the day of Qiyamah is going to say, I did not know what happened after I left them. So we conclude with this, that ilmul ghayb is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Isma is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and nobody shares. Whatever of Isma is with other than God, and whatever of ilmul ghayb is with other than God, it is available for mere mortals as well, if they can refine their souls to that level. The only difference is that those guys were at the supreme level, and I don't think anybody can reach there, but we can try. We come to the narration of Imam Hussein. Hazrat Abdullah, the husband of Bibi Zainab, he brought Aun and Muhammad to Lady Zainab. And he said, if in case a battle breaks out, I am unable to accompany, Aun and Muhammad will assist their uncle in battle. So Bibi Zainab takes Aun and Muhammad with her. Now we need to understand the mindset of Lady Zainab. She is no ordinary woman. She is the daughter of Bibi Fatima, who is very, very resilient. And she is the daughter of Imam Ali, who is extremely brave and resilient. She is endowed with the message of the Prophet. And she is unrelenting in upholding that message. So this is the state of Lady Zainab that we find. That she is filled with anguish, saying to Imam Hussein that the soldiers of the enemy are mounting. Where are your helpers? So then when Habib comes, Habib goes out to the clan of Bani Asad and mobilizes people to come and help Imam Hussein. This is at the insistence of Bibi Zainab. She is not ready to let go of her brother. On the night of Ashura, Imam Hussein naps and he sees a dream. He awakens with the words of istirja. And he says, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Indeed, time, you are an unfaithful comrade. For how many have awoken in your bosom with a smile in the morning, only for you to conceal them beneath the earth by nightfall. Bibi Zainab said, then in that case, oh brother, they will kill you. He said, oh Zainab, this is what I fear. She fainted. She could not withstand the thought of the death of her brother. She was that much invested in her brother. The battle breaks out. When the collective battle and forces engage, the troops of Imam Hussein are killed very quickly. There was an Arab custom that when the numbers diminish, they would engage in single combat. The time for single combat came. Akbar gave his life. The brothers of Abbas gave their lives. Lady Zainab summoned Own and Muhammad. She said, "Oh children, do you value your lives above the lives of your uncle?" They said, "Oh mother, whenever we approach him, he turns his face away. He breaks into tears." Zainab said, "Call Hussein to me." He came. She said, "Oh brother, look into my eyes. Do you think your sister will go like this in front of Allah and His Messenger and our mother, and telling them that I valued my children over the son of Fatima?" He said, "Zainab, I give them consent." Zainab combs their hair, beautifies them. She asks them to wear the cleanest clothes that they have. This is Zainab giving her qurbani for her brother. Hussein sends them. He stands upon a hill looking at the children. Their mother had told them that if you find Ibn Sa'd, put him to death. And if you find water, bring it back for your uncle Hussein. As they rode, Umar ibn Sa'd said, "Whose children are these youth?" They said, "The children of Zainab." He said, "I'm baffled at the love a sister has for her brother. How has she sent the apples of her eyes for destruction?" On and Muhammad engage with the enemies. The soldiers of the enemies break upon them. A sword descends upon Muhammad. As he falls to the ground, On rushes to him and embraces him. And he says, "Oh brother, I'm soon to join you." As he laments, he is struck down. As Hussein sees this scene, he runs to the children. We read that he carries both the children in his arms in a way that their feet drag upon the dust of Karbala. As Hussein approaches the tent, Abbas Qummi states that Zainab would be the first one, followed by the rest of the women, to receive Imam Hussein and the Shuhada. Hussein looks, but he does not find his sister Zainab. When asked, they said that she did not wish to embarrass her brother. Instead, they found her in sajda, thanking Allah for accepting her qurbani. Matam Hussein.
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. सरवर दुनिया में आबाद है جس کے دم سے آل سرور دنیا میں آباد ہے، جس کے دم سے آل سرور دنیا میں آباد ہے، جس کے دم سے آل سرور دنیا میں آباد ہے، جس کے دم سے آل سرور دنیا میں آباد ہے۔ ہاں اسی زینب کی جولی، ہاں اسی زینب کی جولی ہو گئی برباد ہے، جس کے دم سے آل سرور دنیا میں آباد ہے، جس کے دم سے آل سرور دنیا میں آباد ہے، جس کے دم سے آل سرور دنیا میں آباد ہے۔ دیکھ کر اولو محمد کو یہی کہتی تھی ماں، دیکھ کر اولو محمد کو یہی کہتی تھی ماں، دیکھو صدقہ لائی ہوں، دیکھو صدقہ لائی ہوں، اکبر میری اولاد ہے، جس کے دم سے آل سرور دنیا میں آباد ہے، جس کے دم سے آل سرور دنیا میں آباد ہے، جس کے دم سے آل سرور دنیا میں آباد ہے۔ بیجتے دم بولی ماں تم فکر مادر نہ کرو، بیجتے دم بولی ماں تم فکر مادر نہ کرو، شام کی راہوں میں میرے، شام کی راہوں میں میرے ساتھ اب سجاد ہے، جس کے دم سے آل سرور دنیا میں آباد ہے، جس کے دم سے آل سرور دنیا میں آباد ہے، جس کے دم سے آل سرور دنیا میں آباد ہے۔ سب کے لاشیں لوٹیں گے لیکن یہ لوٹیں گے نہیں، سب کے لاشیں لوٹیں گے لیکن یہ لوٹیں گے نہیں، فیصلہ قسمت کا زینب، فیصلہ قسمت کا زینب، کیا تجھے کچھ یاد ہے، جس کے دم سے آل سرور دنیا میں آباد ہے، جس کے دم سے آل سرور دنیا میں آباد ہے، جس کے دم سے آل سرور دنیا میں آباد ہے۔ لاش پر ایک لاش لا کر تھک چکا بھائی میرا، لاش پر ایک لاش لا کر تھک چکا بھائی میرا، مرتے دم تم نہ بلانا، مرتے دم تم نہ بلانا، یہ میری فریاد ہے، جس کے دم سے آل سرور دنیا میں آباد ہے، جس کے دم سے آل سرور دنیا میں آباد ہے، جس کے دم سے آل سرور دنیا میں آباد ہے۔ دیکھ کر اولو محمد کو یہی کہتی تھی ماں، دیکھ کر اولو محمد کو वो यही कहती थी माँ, देखो सदका लाई हूँ, देखो सदका लाई हूँ, अकबर मेरी औलाद है, जिसके दम से आल सरवर दुनिया में आबाद है, जिसके दम से आल सरवर दुनिया में आबाद है। हाँ उसी ज़ैनब की जोली, हाँ उसी ज़ैनब की जोली हो गई बर्बाद है, जिसके दम से आल सरवर दुनिया में आबाद है, जिसके दम से आल सरवर दुनिया में आबाद है, जिसके दम से आल सरवर दुनिया में आबाद है।
रहमल्लाहु मन क़रअ अल-फ़ातिहा।
If I can request you all to be seated for the Q&A, ziyarat will be recited at the end. Thank you. So you can still submit any questions to www.shaykharif.com/live. So if I can please ask you all to sort of settle down so we can have the question and answer session. Okay, Shaykh, the first question. How do we pass on religious teachings to our children while staying authentic to the original Islam of the Prophet when we ourselves are doubting what we know?
So, the message of the Prophet and the Quran is a moral and a virtuous message. We need to pass to our children the virtues that the Prophet demonstrated and the Imams demonstrated and the morals that they abided by. The Quran is full of such teachings that are moral and virtuous teachings. On top of that, we need to teach them that they need to be centered with God. And the Islamic practice of centering with God is salah. And that's the most important practice. That's your opportunity to become mindful, become focused, incorporate your meditation inside there, mindfulness inside there. Spend that time with God, quality time, free your mind and spend it. Don't teach them that namaz is an obligation that you must do. If you don't do, you're not a Muslim or that you'll be cursed. No. Tell them salah is the time for you to attain your purpose, your inner purpose, your humanity, your godly light. And through that salah shall come every virtue and every goodness. We can pass on this religious teaching because this is very, very accurate. Now, we can use Imam Ali when he was struck down to see his state, how it was. Or Nahjul Balagha, where he talks about his sense of justice and righteousness. Or the Blessed Prophet forgiving people. Or standing alongside the oppressed. Or standing fearlessly for the human cause and cause of God. We can look at Imam Ali and say, look, he was denied water, but when he could deny water to the forces of Muawiyah, he said he will not do so. Instead, he gave them water. We can look at Imam Hussein, how he forgave Hur. We can see Imam Hussein amidst the indescribable calamities, how his virtuous conduct shows him as that godly man. He did not swear, did not curse. He was calm, composed, and his prayers that came from him. This is how to pass down religion.
Thank you. Next question. Please can you touch upon how Ayatul Tathhir feeds into the discussion of Isma of the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt?
Yes, so Ayatul Tathhir, it's in the context of the verses that are talking to the wives of the Prophet to not to come out of their houses and not to engage with others and so on and so forth. In the midst of that, we have the Ayatul Tathhir, that Allah wishes to keep all uncleanliness away from you. So from here we can gather that what it means is that immorality and inadequacies are to be kept away from the Ahlul Bayt. So when we examine the Ahlul Bayt, from putting together the verse of Mubahala and the Ahadith, we find that Ali, Fatima, Hassan, Hussein Salamullah alayhim are the first tier of Ahlul Bayt, and the wives of the Prophet are the second tier of Ahlul Bayt. But when we examine this carefully, we find that Ayatul Tathhir signifies the purity from shirk, kufr, nifaq, greed, lying, so on and so forth. So it signifies purity from spiritual and moral defects. So that is the form of isma that they have in a most beautiful way, that they are not committing shirk or kufr or nifaq or anything else. But the beauty of these people is that in spite of being human, they have ascended to that level that is quite superhuman. Yeah? So they are no ordinary people.
Humans learn from experts in their fields, even though those experts are not perfect. So what then is the practical significance of infallibility?
So when we look at the role, the exemplary sort of model of the Prophet and his family, because the Quran is talking to us to follow the Prophet as an example. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. So the Prophet is a role model for us in how to lead our lives in the best possible godly manner. So how? The Prophet feels anxiety, but instead of running to people to get their support, he turns to Allah instead. The Prophet's son is taken away from the Prophet. Instead of breaking and complaining and becoming devastated, the Prophet cries with a broken heart and leaves it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet faces an army in front of him. Instead of compromising upon his principles, he stands his ground. The Prophet makes a promise. Even though it's arduous for him and difficult for him, he keeps his promise. The Prophet is in power as the head of Medina and as a statesman. When a Jewish man comes to him and he says, Muhammad, I gave you a loan, I want it back, the time is due. The Prophet did not say to the rich people of Medina, give him his money. He did not. He said, I do not have it, and I owe you money, give me some more time. He said, I will not let you leave my sight until you bring me what you owe to me. The Prophet said, then be it, it's your right. And the Prophet stayed there in Medina being detained by a Jewish man, even though his Sahaba were getting very perturbed and angry. The Prophet did not move. The Prophet said, it's between me and him. If you can't stay here, you can leave, but it is his right upon me, and I will stay here for as long as he detains me here. That is the role model that we want to follow. That is the infallible part of Prophet Muhammad, how he was able to connect with God in every aspect of human life. That supreme state of God consciousness. So look at this very small example of the Prophet's life, that somebody gave him a fruit, so he cut a slice and he ate it. And then he finished the whole fruit, and then he thanked that man and sent him off. The Sahaba said, why didn't you share with us? He said, because the fruit was very sour. Had I given it to you, I feared that you would have made comments or made faces, and that would have been injurious to the heart of this person who gifted me that fruit. I wanted to not hurt his sentiment, and I did not want to put you in that predicament, so I ate the fruit. Now, in that small act of his is an ocean of virtue. That how mindful he was of God, of that person. He didn't make a face, he ate it, he was mindful of the Sahaba. So there you go. That is far more than any infallibility can do. And that is what I would call real infallibility. That God-centered state, God focus, and God consciousness, and that beautiful clemency and love and affection for fellow humans. And that is why these are role models. But if they were infallible, and if you were to say, well, Jibreel was telling him, Prophet, eat the whole fruit, and right, then you would say, well, he's not much of a role model. This was his humanity at that superior level that made him do what he did. Yeah.
Thank you. Final question. What is the purpose of God revealing verses that none can understand except God? Are these from the ghayb that it is possible for ordinary minds to comprehend at some point on their spiritual journey?
No, I don't think anybody will comprehend it till the day of Qiyamah and beyond. Because God at times is talking a language that only He understands. At times He's talking a language that we can understand. At times He's talking a language that the jinn understand. And this Quran is not for humanity. It is a revelation in and of itself that addresses humanity to the extent to which humanity can be led aright. But the jinn in the Quran state that we heard the revelation, and we did not think after Moses anybody has been sent. But there is a revelation that's guiding. Now jinn, unfortunately, we haven't understood because we have a lot of mythologies within our heads. And let me give that example to clarify this. And we'll talk about it in the next few days as well. That the 12th Imam, when he comes, Dajjal will be there and he will have a donkey, and the donkey in his 3 strides will cover the whole globe, the distance of a globe. Now it's not a big donkey, right? We know that. We know it's a means of conveyance and it's technology, right? We know that. So when the jinns are mentioned in the Quran, the hadith also clarifies that certain jinn are like the angels, certain jinn are airborne, and certain jinn are upon the earth. But Jannah means to conceal. Now that could be interdimensional creatures, or it could be creatures in other areas of the universe. Because the Quran says to the jinn on the day of Qiyamah, Ya ma'ashir al-jinn, O jinn, you are far many. You are much, much more than humans. Now we are 8 billion right now. Can you see, in 10 years' time, many of these 8 billion will be gone and many more will be there. So you can imagine if you count every human being from the time of Adam to the time of Qiyamah, I mean it's a colossal number, the amount of human beings. So jinn could also be alien races. If we study the literature very carefully, jinn are far more different to what we have imagined. The jinn who are there, called angels, that were asked to prostrate and acknowledge the authority of Adam. These jinn, other jinn, they're different species of beings. So the Quran is not only for humans, but it's for the jinn as well. And I'll give you one more evidence. The Quran is saying, oh group of man and jinn, if you can penetrate within the realms of the heavens and the earth, then do so. You will not be able to do so save with great force. Now if the jinn were 5th dimensional or 6th dimensional creatures, then they don't need force to penetrate within the earth, because the multi-dimension exists in the 3-dimensional world by passing through it. It doesn't need to penetrate within the realms of the earth or the heavens. Only a physical being or something that is physical-like needs that force. So the Quran is for humans and for a whole species of jinn, whatever they are. And Quran is a revelation in and of itself, God speaking things that only He understands, and they are very, very relevant at different realms, and human beings may never ever understand, and I don't feel they will until the day of Qiyamah and maybe even after. That's my understanding.
Thank you, Shaykh, for answering those questions.
Thank you.
Just a couple of announcements. There is a selection of the latest publications by AMI Press available for sale in the entrance foyer. Cash and card payments are accepted. You can also donate towards the Muharram lecture series and towards the Yemen Fund at the entrance foyer. Tomorrow night's program will start at 9 p.m. with Tomorrow night program will start at 9 p.m. with Salah, followed by a Quran lecture, Matam and Ziyarat, ending with refreshments. The refreshments will be served outside straight after the Ziyarah. Can I request everybody to recite a Surah Fatiha for all marhumin? Al-Fatiha. توجه يا زيارة. السلام عليك يا حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين وسيد الوصيين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك، هو على 9 المعصومين من ذريتك، علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.